days, 3 working days in 2 cases. One, applicants whom the system identifies based on data analysis, and those who self-assess that their output tax liability will not exceed 2.5 lakh rupees per month. So for these 2 categories, simplified GST registration will happen, and that will give them registration completed within 3 working days. This single reform is expected to benefit 96% of new applicants. So 96% will benefit from it. Task of the field formation is to operationalize it and ensure that there are no friction in the process. The GST Seva Kendra in this office and across India should be well staffed. I would particularly draw the attention of the board for that purpose, make it accessible and make it properly maintained so that taxpayers receive timely and quality assistance. There must also be a dedicated help desk for GST registrations to facilitate the taxpayer in the application process itself. Field units must conduct an internal audit of the functioning of the GST Seva Kendras and take action on the shortcomings faced by the taxpayers. The CP Grams, or the Centralized Public Grievance Redressal and Monitoring System, I have a few things to say on that, and that's again for the field formations. CP Grams is a valuable interface between citizens and the government. Each grievance handled well reflects how responsible and how responsive and transparent the indirect tax administration is. It is indeed pleasant also that CBIC ranks on the top 5 out of 90 central ministries or departments in the CP Grams performance since February 2024. You don't seem to be happy, and I'm glad about that. You should actually be on the top. What 4th rank? So 4th rank among 90 different departments and ministries. You can aspire to be top rank. But of course that can be achieved only by conscious efforts. However, it is important not to lose momentum. Therefore, please make sure that the next destination is rank number 1. CGST field formations must also have dedicated teams within the zones to further expedite the resolution of grievances. Such teams within CGST zones should help identify recurring issues. You're not reaching the top number 1 rank, not for anything which is, newly created problems. You're having recurring issues, you know they are recurring, you don't want to finish it once and for all. If a problem is recurring, you are sure to know what is the root cause. Can you not address the root cause? So I would think recurring problems, you should have a mapping system. Whichever zone has repeat problems occurring in the CP Grams or in any other complaints mode, you should just pull them up. If there are new problems, I can understand. How are you sitting over recurring problems? And that should be reported, I would say, to the field formations. Please report it to the board that there are recurring issues. We may want some assistance at some other level. So these actually will enable many more systemic corrections. I'll move on to disciplinary proceedings, where I have a few things to say again. Timely disciplinary action shows that the institution holds its own officers to high standards of professionalism and integrity. I may not talk about GST here. For a minute, if you give me the indulgence, I'll quote on some other. And the same CBIC, which has done so much good work, particularly in the next generation GST reforms. The board I'm talking about, not the GST side of it, had to be made to be quick in responding to one other issue which also came up. I'm not getting into details of it, but that quick, speedy response with which you have worked in the last 1 year in the GST arena will also have to be shown in the excise and the customs arena. That is for the board, not so much for the others belonging to the GST. So disciplinary proceedings against the officers at different levels in the CGST field formation must be concluded expeditiously in a time-bound manner and also within prescribed timelines given by the DOPT or the CBC. The swift conclusion of disciplinary proceedings reinforces accountability within the organization. It also clears up the perception that public have that there is a level of indifference or protectionism which prevails among officers that weakens your moral authority, and therefore it is important not to delay or procrastinate. It sends a clear message that misconduct, dereliction of duty, or unethical behavior will not be tolerated. I think it's very important, and we can't afford on this to be laid back. Prolonged proceedings, which I find very frequently to my irritation, prolonged proceedings unfairly affect the morale and reputation of the officers involved, particularly if they are innocent. For those wrongfully accused, early closure brings relief and restoration of dignity. The motto for disciplinary matters therefore should be, गलत किया है तो खैर नहीं, सही किया तो कोई भैर नहीं. It's important for us to quality, fairness and speed matters in the investigations and enforcement. Pending CGST investigations must be closed expeditiously with quality orders and those that can stand scrutiny. So quality orders that are well reasoned, evidence-based and also proportionate reduces adverse judicial outcomes and cut down litigation costs. So therefore officials must be trained and encouraged to conduct quality investigations. Field units must focus on wrongful ITC claims, fake invoice rings, lien and data triangulation, and also use risk engines to prioritize cases with material revenue impact. A few messages on trade facilitation measures. It's critically important for the CGST field formations to proactively undertake trade facilitation measures at your own levels. You don't need somebody to tell you, you need to do this. This is the guidelines given. Action be taken. You don't need it. You're all thinking people in the ground. If you were to be the exporter or if you were to be the trader, what would you want the system to do? Is it difficult to imagine? There is not an iron wall between you and the trader. There's thin air. You can actually understand where the difficulty is. So try to solve it rather than muddy it up any further. They can provide actionable suggestions to the CBIC headquarters because they are at the front line. On inversion, a third looking at only classification, and so on. So I wouldn't want to take more time to pat on your shoulders, but the nation is seeing it, that when you're efficient, when you bring in a large-scale reform, it receives attention globally. And today, no newspaper in the world has missed out on this. There are repeat articles in some of the newspapers even within a single day. The New York Times, for instance, carried 3 pieces of news in the New York City edition. And Chief Economic Advisor, who had gone to the US for the World Bank meet, sent me just one day 3 coverages on the GST reforms. It has had such kind of an impact globally. Well done. And Am I here to say, oh, this much of sales has happened, you're saying, I'm saying, all of us are saying. But traders' body, the Confederation of All India Traders, CAIT as they call it, has said retail sales an all-time high of 6.05 lakh crores this year. Festive season. This is about a 25% increase over the last year's Diwali sales, which was around 4.25 lakh crores. Of the total, about 5.40 lakh crores was spent on goods and 65,000 crores on services, making it the biggest Deepavali business in India's trading history. Equally importantly, this Swadeshi Deepavali saw an overwhelming preference for made in India products. Roughly 87% of all that customers chose to buy the Indian made goods over imports. I'm not saying this. The CAIT's report says this. Beyond the revenue figures, what is happening also is the positive sentiment and optimism which has been shown and reflected in the market. Traders' surveys showed confidence at a decade high, and with the Trader Confidence Index, which was at 8.6 over a scale of 10, and Consumer Confidence Index, which was at 8.4 over a scale of 10. So these are not milestones that you can achieve with just a small time, step forward or a process reform or just this or just that. Because of the comprehensive nature of what we've done, the impact is all across. Sentiments are not just dependent on rate cuts, it's also dependent on how easy life is becoming with the GST. The festive boom also translated into direct benefits for the people. Estimated 50 lakh temporary jobs are being created. And that is during the Deepavali season in sectors like supply chain, retail staffing, delivery, and on transportation. The e-commerce space also recorded a 24% year-on-year growth in volumes, while the gross merchandise value, which is on sales, posted an increase of 23%. So what do all these numbers tell us? That our economic policies, including of the recent GST rate rationalization, is having a very strong, powerful, and meaningful impact on the economy. So in fact, about 72% of the traders surveyed by CAIT credited the GST rate cuts on items like daily use products, footwear, home decor, consumer durables, and also key factors for the higher sales this year. So the Bachat Utsav, as Prime Minister Modi launched it on the eve of our GST reforms coming into play on the 21st when he spoke in the evening, he said this will be double Diwali and this will be a Bachat Utsav. It is actually turning out to be that. So my message to CBI and all the CGST, these few things. The next missions, CBIC and CG should not lose sight of the essence of the next generation reforms. We've brought the rates down, that's the end of the story. No, goes along with very, very many other things. So ease of registration process. The GST Council has approved to make the GST registration process a lot more simpler, easier, seamless, and also more transparent. And that is by design we want it like that. So technology and risk-based parameters must do the heavy lifting and not the taxpayer. We do not want anybody from the field formation adding one little more burden or onus on the taxpayer. Technology should be used. You do smart inquiring into the situation, and if necessary, the taxpayer may be approached for something. but no shifting of onus to him saying, give me more papers, give me this, give me that. Be clear, you should be smart. You should use technology. From 1st November 2025, the simplified GST registration scheme will grant automatic registration within 3 working days in 2 cases. One, applicants whom the system identifies based on data analysis, and those who self-assess that their output tax liability will not exceed.
मैं आप सभी को और आपके परिवार
force.